He stepped into the coffee shop for a quick coffee. Nothing more, nothing less. A quiet stop during another day of meetings, deadlines, and power plays. But when the little girl behind the counter looked him in the eyes and said, "It's $2, sir. My mom has cancer. I'm helping pay for her medicine." Time freezes. That moment, it would unravel everything he thought he knew about life, love, and what it truly means to care. On the surface, Arthur Lennox had it all. Fortune magazine called him the relentless architect. He turned bankrupt brands into billion-dollar titans. He negotiated deals on yachts in boardrooms across 3 continents and never lost. But he also hadn't sat in a roadside coffee shop in over 20 years, until that chilly afternoon, when his private driver had to refuel on a rural detour. Arthur, restless as always, stepped out of the luxury SUV and noticed a small, almost forgotten coffee shop by the road. The place looked old, humble, a patchwork of stories painted in cracked plaster and dusty window panes. He walked in, expecting nothing more than mediocre espresso and a few moments alone. Instead, he met Sophia. She couldn't have been older than 10. Tiny frame, oversized apron slipping off her shoulders. But when she approached with steady steps and a firm voice, "Your double espresso, sir. That'll be 2 reis." Arthur paused. He blinked, thinking maybe she was just helping her parents. But she stayed, watched him with a gauze that carried far more weight than a child should ever bear. He cleared his throat. You work here?" She nodded. "My mom's sick. Real sick. I take over while she rests." The espresso grew cold in his hand. Arthur Lennox was a man of metrics, numbers, performance. He measured success by graphs, projections, and capital. But there, in front of a child who said he was working to keep his mother alive, he didn't know what to say. "Cancer?" he asked, swallowing hard. Sophia nodded slightly. "She says she'll get better, but I know she won't get better on her own." She said it like someone who's seen a lot without ever leaving anywhere. Arthur searched for something to say, but everything sounded small. The air inside the coffee shop seemed denser, harder to breathe. She went back behind the counter and began clearing trays, her movements practiced, silent. It was as if each gesture said, "I don't have time for drama. I need to move on." Arthur finished his coffee, but he didn't finish the moment. Before he left a folded note on the table. He didn't look at it, didn't say anything, but he felt inside something tighten, as if he had seen a crack in the bulletproof glass of his own soul. Outside, the wind was still cold, but he was sweating. In the car, he didn't speak to the driver. He didn't turn on his cell phone. He just looked out the window, as if the world outside had changed. But he was the one who was different, without understanding how or why. The next day, with no meeting scheduled, no commitment to justify it, Arthur returned. He told the driver that he needed air. The truth. He needed that girl's voice again. The way she looked at him without fear, as if she saw the man behind the suit. She was there, cleaning the same tables. This time she smiled slightly when she saw him. "You're back." "Yes, and today I want coffee and a chat." She laughed softly, but brought the coffee. Arthur took a closer look. The refrigerator was making a strange humming noise. The shelves were full of different glasses. The coffee machine looked like it was about to retire. And through it all, that child kept the place running. "What's your name?" he asked. "Sophia." "And you?" "Arthur." She repeated the name quietly, as if recording something important. Then she went back to her tasks. He stayed longer than necessary. He pretended to be playing with a cell phone, but his eyes never left the little world that was spinning inside him. She offered him a cheese bread that was a little cold. He ate it as if it were a banquet. "Are you going to come back tomorrow?" she asked. Arthur didn't know how to answer. but he knew he wanted to. He knew that something in that story had caught a dormant part of him, and when he left the coffee shop, the answer was already clear. Yes, he would come back. Arthur arrived early on that third day. The sky was still cloudy, the air heavy. He parked in the same corner and stayed inside the car for a few minutes. His heart was beating with an anxiety he couldn't name. He took a deep breath and got in. Sophia was already there. She was sweeping the floor carefully, as if preparing an altar. When she saw him, she looked up and smiled more freely. "You really like it here, don't you?" she said. "I like you, brave girl." Arthur replied. She blushed, looked away. "My mother always says that courage is what we do when we have no choice." He felt a lump at his throat. "Is she better today?" he asked. Sophia hesitated, then shook her head. "Some days she only gets up to go to the bathroom." The coffee cup trembled in Arthur's hand. He looked at that girl and saw something greater than responsibility. It was dignity, a strength that came from love, and that's why it hurt so much. She didn't beg. She didn't ask for anything. She just followed. Arthur stayed there longer. He didn't talk about business. He didn't think about meetings. The only thing that mattered was that moment, that girl who cleaned the tables with an almost transparent cloth, while the world outside continued to run without noticing. On the fourth day, the door of the coffee shop opened, and it was not Sophie who came in. It was a tall, thin woman with sunken eyes but a persistent glow. She was leaning against the door with shaking hands. Sophie ran up to her and said, "Mom, you shouldn't be standing." Arthur watched without interrupting. The woman sat down with difficulty. Arthur brought her a cup of tea. She looked at him with a mixture of embarrassment and gratitude. "Thank you, sir." "My name is Arthur," he said. She introduced herself. "Mary Ann." Arthur repeated the name in a low voice, feeling something strange in that sound. "Are you Sophia's friend?" she asked. "I am someone who has a lot to learn from her." She smiled weakly. Sophia came back with a blanket and placed it over her mother's shoulders, with the same care as an experienced nurse. Mary Ann held her daughter's hand and said, "She holds me every day. I don't know what I would be like without her." Arthur swallowed hard. At that moment he knew for sure he had to do something, not out of charity, but out of duty, as a man, as a human being. The next day, Arthur arrived with a folder in his hand. Sophia found it strange. Mary Ann was sitting there, paler than ever. He approached the table where they were both sitting. "Sorry to come in like this, but I've thought of something." He opened the folder and placed the papers on the table. "Project Hope," it said at the top. It was a complete plan to renovate the coffee shop. Equipment, paint, a new facade, all at his expense. In exchange, Mary Ann would continue to own the place, but with one detail: part of the profits would go to a fund to support women in similar situations. Mary Ann was speechless. Sophia looked at the papers as if they were magic. "But why?" Mary Ann asked, suspicious. Arthur took a deep breath. "Because I lost someone to cancer, and I know what this fight does. If I can help, then I should." Mary Ann squeezed her eyes shut, tears welling up. "What if I don't accept?" she asked firmly. "Then I'll come back just for the coffee," he replied with a slight smile. Sophia held her mother's hand under the table, and Mary Ann knew she was no longer alone. The renovation work began even before the new permit was issued. Arthur mobilized a small team, an architect, an electrician, a painter, and a calm, smiling engineer. Sophia became the official tour guide for the project. She showed where the faucet was always dripping, where the light flickered every night. Mary Ann watched everything with eyes somewhere between doubt and enchantment. She kept repeating, "Is it real?" The coffee shop began to transform. The peeling walls gained new colors. The uneven floor was replaced. The old coffee machine was replaced with a modern one, but with the same welcoming smell. Sophia asked for a green wall. She got it. Arthur showed up every day, sometimes to supervise, sometimes just to see Marianne smile, or to hear Sophia say that the teacher praised her handwriting. The place was filled with life, but the peace would not last. It was a cloudy afternoon. A pickup truck stopped in front of the coffee shop. A woman got out wearing sunglasses, high heels, and a large bag. She had a firm posture and a judgmental look. It was Paula, Marianne's sister. She walked in without saying good afternoon. "So it's true," she said, looking at the new counter. "You accepted help from a stranger, and you're turning this place into a circus." Arthur approached calmly. "Nice to meet you, Arthur Lennox, investor." Paula ignored him. "Where do you know this man from, Marianne? And now he's in charge here." "He doesn't give orders. He helps," Marianne replied firmly. "Help? That's a handout in disguise. You never knew how to get by, Marianne. Always waiting for someone to save you." Sophia appeared behind her mother, frightened. Arthur stepped in front, trying to protect them both. "With all due respect, Paula, Marianne is not weak, and she is doing this for herself and her daughter." Paula laughed. "You think you know everything, don't you? This place is going to sink like it always has." She left, slamming the door, but she left the poison planted. That night, Marianne did not sleep. The memory of old debts, of past mistakes, came back like ghosts, and with them, the fear of losing everything again. 2 days later, city inspectors arrived. Anonymous complaint, irregular construction, lack of documentation. Arthur tried to talk, to present the documents in progress, but the inspectors were cold. "If you don't regularize everything by Friday, we'll close it down." Marianne was paralyzed. "It was her," Sophia said. Arthur and Marianne looked at each other. No one had any doubts. Their sister hadn't come just to argue. She had come to attack. Arthur gathered lawyers, NGO partners, and local politicians. He ran after every pending authorization. Marianne visited the city hall, spoke with assistants, and delivered paper after paper. But the clock was ticking, and Paula was playing dirty. On Wednesday, Paula returned, this time accompanied by a lawyer. She filed an injunction requesting custody of Sophia. She claimed that Marianne was ill, unstable, and in no physical or emotional condition to raise a daughter. The document said that Sophia should go with her immediately. Sophia cried. Marianne screamed. Arthur intervened. He called his lawyer, who identified a technical error in the document. He managed to suspend the order for 48 hours. But the message had been sent. The war had begun. Arthur spent the next few days gathering evidence. Videos, testimonies, photos, school reports. He hired psychologists, doctors, social workers. Marianne wrote a handwritten letter telling everything. Her illness, her recovery, her motherhood. Sophia drew a picture. At the top she wrote, "My mother is my haven." On the day of the hearing, the court was full. Paul arrived with a victorious attitude, but Marianne arrived with her head held high and Sophia by the hand. Arthur was by her side, and there, between glances and documents, the judge heard the truth. The social worker read her report. Safe environment, strong emotional bond, no signs of neglect. Sophia spoke bravely. "I want to stay with my mother. She takes care of me, and I take care of her. We are a team." The judge looked at everyone present. Total silence. He took a deep breath and declared, "Considering the reports, the testimonies, and the minor's wishes, final custody remains with Marianne Andrews. The objection presented by Paula is dismissed." Marianne covered her mouth, crying silently. Sophia hugged her tightly. Arthur remained standing, his eyes filled with tears. Paula left the room without saying a word, but Mary Ann's pain was no longer fear. It was liberation. Outside, the sky was clear. The city was as usual. But there, in that moment, the world had changed for them. In that corner coffee shop, on the newly painted walls, and in Sophia's small hands, a new time had been born. The reopening took place 3 days later, with a simple cake, fresh juice, and the smell of strong coffee in the air. The neighbors came. The workers returned to see the result. A banner at the entrance read, "Coffee Shop Mary Ann. Here we start again." But the nickname stuck. Coffee Shop Hopefulness. That's what everyone said when they walked in. Are we going to Hopefulness today? Meeting at 10 at Hopefulness. Mary Ann didn't correct him. She smiled, because now that place wasn't just a coffee shop. It was a symbol of struggle, of reconstruction, of love. Arthur brought croissants and cheese bread. Sophia helped with the sugar and the coffees. The new room in the back, with a simple table and 2 chairs, was used by mothers from the community. There, women asked for help, shared stories, and met Mary Ann with a look that said, "I understand you." On a quiet afternoon, with the sun streaming through the window, Mary Ann sat next to Arthur with a cup of tea. She looked at Sophia, laughing with a customer, and then said, "Do you know what I'm most proud of?" "What?" he asked. "That we faced everything, without running away." Arthur pressed her hand on the table and replied, "And we will continue to face it, together." She smiled. Later, Sophia showed a hand-painted poster. Crooked colors, big letters, but pure soul. It read, "Here we truly love." Mary Ann hung it in the entrance. The next morning, the sun had barely risen, but the coffee shop was already alive. Sophia ran around in a wrinkled uniform and an open backpack. Mary Ann organized the cups as if they were relics, and Arthur appeared with fresh bread and a newspaper. It was a new routine, a new home. The social project grew. Other mothers arrived. Other coffee shops began to be inspired, and Mary Ann, previously seen as fragile, was now sought out for her strength. She spoke little, but when she did speak, she touched deeply. Sophia wrote an essay called "My Mother is My Lighthouse." She won a prize at school, and the teacher asked Mary Ann to give a talk. She replied, "I only did what a mother does, fight until the end." In the end, it wasn't about coffee. It was about purpose. It wasn't about reform. It was about rebuilding what no one sees, the love, the connection, the dignity. Arthur Lennox, the billionaire who thought he had it all, discovered there, in a girl in an apron, that the greatest riches do not live in safes, but in hearts that love without measure. And in that small coffee shop, with its simple walls and the smell of freshly baked bread, he found his answer. There, finally, he understood. True power is transformation, and true home is where someone looks at you and says, "Here you can stay."